Hello, good evening. I'm Dr. Asatar Bear, and thank you for joining me this evening. Um, Heart rhythm meditation is a um, method of meditation comes out of Sufism. You're working with making your breath very deep, so down low in your belly. You're making your breath rhythmic. You're making your breath full, drawing a bigger breath than you normally do. Heart centered, meaning as you breathe, you want to cultivate the feeling that it is your heart that is breathing. Or your heart chakra, okay, the center of your feelings, your spiritual center of your ego, um, is taking in energy as you breathe in and is expressing energy, radiating energy as you breathe out, right? Um, and you want your breath to be slow, okay? So let's try this out together. All right. So, first thing you want to adopt an upright posture. Right. So you're sitting on a chair like I am, or on the floor, or you can even stand. There's different ways to go about this. But what you want is your spine to be upright, so that you are energized. Like, I don't recommend doing this lying down. It's too low energy, right? Like, lying down, we are physiologically attuned to recognize that as sleep and rest, right? Um, we want the energy to be active, right? But we don't want to be actually using the energy for anything, right? Like, it's unusual that we do this, right? It's unusual just that we sit still and are upright and have our eyes closed. That's a very unusual, as an activity, right? We're going to have our eyes closed. We're almost always laying down, right? So we're doing something different. We're signaling that to our body, to our mind, right, to everything, just by the posture that we adopt. Very powerful. All right. So just sit up straight, close your eyes, and you tune into your breath. And you can place your hand on your belly if you like. Make sure that your belly is expanding as you breathe in and contracting as you breathe out. Now you squeeze your abdominal muscles as you breathe out, and breathe out more than you're used to. Really squeeze all the breath out, working on the full breath. Now, retuning your breathing in this way is a skill that takes some time to learn. So don't worry if it feels like a lot. That's actually good because it keeps your mind occupied. Right? Your mind can't go off on all kinds of tangents if you give your mind a task. Right? Squeeze out all the breath on the exhalation, and then allow your belly to expand, and then allow your chest to expand as well. So we want to be engaging in abdominal breathing, but we don't want it to stop there, right? In order to fully complete the breath, we have to bring it all the way up. So the whole area of breathing should go like from your hips to your collarbone. That's the relevant area of breath. You'd also like your breath to be rhythmic. Okay, so the same length on the inhalation as on the exhalation. The best way to make your breath rhythmic, slow, and heart centered is to use your heartbeat and to place that in tune with your breathing. Some people, maybe about half on average, can feel their heartbeat easily. and half cannot. So if you can feel it, that's good. Pay attention to it and place it in a rhythm so that the same number of beats on the inhalation as are on the exhalation. You might have to experiment a bit to find the rhythm that is right for you. If you can do 8 beats in and 8 beats out, that's a good one. And if you do that, your breath will be much slower than you're used to. If you feel like you're struggling to bring in enough breath, like your lungs feel full and then you don't have any, but your count's not done, that's very common. That means you actually need to breathe out more so that then you create space, right? Normally we do not breathe out all the way, and so we have a residual volume in our lungs, in the whole thoracic cavity, actually. So you have to squeeze out in order to bring more in. All right, we'll end that little introductory session there and um, talk a little bit more about meditation in general, and then we'll come back and practice some more. Building up as we go along. So, by the way, if you're doing this and you're getting benefit from it, you might want to check out my Patreon page. The link is in the description, patreon.com/asatarbear. Um, for my patrons, I offer a whole meditation course called Meditation Basics that takes you through step by step, right? Because, like I'm kind of throwing it all at you right now, right? And maybe you guys can follow that, maybe not, I don't know. Um, but it's like with any skill, it's good to like do one piece at a time, like spend spend some time just on each thing. Um, so check that out if you're interested. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that happen that are like well-known things that happen like when you start meditating, and especially if you do it regularly, right? I mean, like any skill, the key to getting a lot from it is to practice it, right? I mean, and especially with meditation, right? The key is to practice it every day. Um, and I know that's a big thing. That's a big ask on it, right? So, but I'm not really asking you to do that. It's more like if you see the benefit in it, you know, I'm just telling you, right, from my experience, that's where most of the benefit has been for me, right? As is doing it on a daily basis. Um, Now, of course, I have times where just set aside to do lengthy practice sessions, right? This is like called a retreat, right? Um, I meditate all day for a week or something, right? I've done lots of these, and that has a lot of benefit too. That puts you in a completely different place, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every way, right? Than you are when you're in normal life. But then that's great. Uh, but it's also, the your real life, your day to day life, is really where the rubber meets the road, right? So you want something that is going to provide you with a change or whatever it is that you're seeking from meditation, right? You want that every day, right? I mean, that's so the best way to get that is to do it every day. Now, what kinds of stuff am I thinking of here when I said like there's certain things that will happen? Um, One thing I hope happens for you, maybe you're experiencing this, I don't know. One thing I hope is that you get inspiration from it, that there's something about meditation, particularly if you do the style of breathing that I'm teaching you, that is very, very um, inspiring for your mind, right? I mean, you get like a ton of new ideas and new perspectives, and it can be incredibly compelling. um, it can make you want to like immediately stop meditating, write down what or do whatever it is you thought of. um, and that's good, right? I mean, I actually don't recommend jumping right up and doing whatever it is that you thought of. um, I don't even recommend stopping and writing it down. I tend to think if you're getting good ideas, I would say don't think of it as the content of what you're getting. Think of it as it's a flow of inspiration, right? The truly good ideas will return to your consciousness, right? Even if you forget, oh, I have a great idea at the beginning of the meditation, I forget about it, right? It'll come back. Okay. Now there are things that, like every rule might be broken. There's a time and place to break every rule, right? So there are some thoughts that are just so absolutely compelling that you should, at the very least, write it down, right? I mean, and my general rule for that is if it comes back to you several times, if it comes back to you three times, right? Like the first time something occurs, you might say, okay, great. Glad I had that inspiration. That's fantastic. Go back to doing your practice, right? The breathing takes attention to master, right? So you um sorry, hold on a second here. So you want to you want to stay with that, right? No, maybe the idea comes back again, and typically when this happens, it's going to come to you in a different form. Maybe you see something else in it, right? If it comes back a third time, then maybe you need to write it down, right? That's up to you. All right, so that's one of the things. If that's happening, that's great. That's very good. Meditation should enliven, right? It should inspire. That's good. It doesn't always do this, right? Sometimes it brings up anxiety, dissatisfaction, pain, disappointment. So that is just incredibly common, right? Like if I was to say to you like, "Oh, don't worry, meditation is all unicorns and rainbows and chocolate and Disneyland or whatever." I mean, that's not true, like it. And even if it were, that is not life, right? Life is a mix of all these things, right? Like you can't just eat whipped cream all the time, right? Like that's not going to be, it's not going to satisfy you. Let's say, right? So we don't uh, like expect, or it's not good to expect. Let's say, right, to only have good experiences in meditation or in life, right? That's not a good expectation. Um, a good, I think, I mean, the attitude that has worked for me, let me say it this way, right, is to say, I want to embrace every aspect of the experience, right? And what does that mean? What does it mean to embrace an experience, right? Usually, when we encounter something difficult, okay, so what do I mean by difficult? I mean something that brings up a fear, a doubt, an anxiety, whatever it is, right? A negative experience, something that you feel, maybe something you feel disappointed in yourself for, something somebody said that upset you, whatever it is, right? Whatever difficult or negative experience it is, embracing it means you stop fighting it. You stop thinking that there's a solution to it. You stop thinking, well, if only I had said this, or if only I had done that, or right. You stop trying to um, control the discomfort, the pain, the dissatisfaction, and you just take it all the way in, right? You experience it fully, and you say, I even want to turn up the volume on this, right? Like if the feeling, the experience is like at a 3, turn it up to 8, turn up to 10 if you can, right? What does that mean? It means you have to try to experience what is behind it, right? I mean, if you're annoyed, okay, annoyance is like a small emotion, right? Oh, that annoyed me. I'm lame. Well, there's no like small or big emotions in that sense. It's like, well, your experience of it is small. Well, don't let your experience be small. You want big experiences. Like, are you annoyed by something? Well, what is it, right? What is really at the root of it, right? That's for you to explore, right? That is for you to use your breath and take that feeling into your heart. And the amazing thing is that it's going to transform. It will become much greater, right? You By turning up the intensity, you don't stay at a level of annoyance, right? You either have an you well, I mean, what happens, right? What happens is you learn, like, why is this bothering me, right? Why is this coming up right now? What is in it that gets me? You know, that's a very good thing to learn about yourself, right? That is a foundational moment of self knowledge. Um, Now, there's a mix of different things. Okay, so now I'm sort of talking about like what do you get from meditation and like how do you interpret it, right? What does it mean? So again, the general kind of my guideline for what do I get? How do I make sense of what happens in my inner world when I meditate? Is I think, well, everything that happens is a message from me to me. All right. So the thoughts and feelings and everything that I experience, right? I mean, because unless there's something happening externally, right? I mean, you're being still, your eyes are closed, right? You're not getting there's not a lot of relationship with the outside world there, right? Most of it, I mean, of course, things can happen, right? But most of it is just internal, right? That's the whole point. Um, Sometimes you do get signals that are from the outside world, and I have a story about this, and this is happened to me years ago. Let's see how many. It's probably 12 or 13 years ago. I was on a retreat in Arizona in the Sonoran Desert, and it's way out on the outskirts of town where it's like you're nowhere near the city. It was outside of Tucson, Arizona, and it was like a 6-day retreat. And so I would go out from away from where I was staying, and I would go out into the desert. And this is the kind of place where there's houses around, but there's like not many. And if you just walked away from development, away from the road, you would be, in the middle of the desert. And so I was sitting, not I mean not it wasn't that far away, but I was sitting there, and I start hearing this like pretty large animal kind of creeping through some of the underbrush or whatever, right? And then it's still for a while, and the big predator in that part of the world is the mountain lion, right? Um, but mountain lions are like rare. I mean, in terms, they don't even let themselves be seen. Occasionally they might attack somebody, but it's rare. But I'm doing my meditation practice, or whatever. But I'm also listening to this, and of course I'm thinking I am pretty vulnerable in this situation, you know. And what does this mean for me? Is this something that I need to do? And I'm trying to feel not only what's going on inside me, but what's the energy outside, right? And this is a very challenging, right? Because when you're meditating, figuring out what is coming from me and what is coming from outside, right? What is something that I actually need to respond to, right? So I'm trying to figure this out, and the so I decide, all right, I'm going to go inside. I never see anything, This is but it's sort of dusk time too, so I'm like, all right, I'll go inside, and I'm meditating inside this courtyard. Uh, it's not that far from where I was, but it's there's walls around it, and I'm still having this like um, all of the feelings that came up around a possible mountain lion encounter. I'm like, what happen if I were to fight a mountain lion? Right? Like these are the kinds of thoughts I have, because you guys know this about me, but I'm you know into martial arts and whatever. So that's just one of the things. If you have that outlook, you're always going to think, what would I do in this kind of fight? I mean, that's just that's how I am, right? So I'm like, how would that fight go down? And I'm like, is this for real? And then I'm playing them out in my mind, right? And and it keeps on going on, right? I mean, and I'm been doing this a long time. I'm good at going back to concentrating on my practices and whatever. But there's some meaning in this, right? That this keeps on coming back. There's something for me in this experience, right? So I stop fighting it, right? Fighting it in this context meant, oh yes, let me figure out the right way to fight a mountain lion, right? And I'm thinking, okay, well, what if I do this? What if I do that, right? That's staying on the surface, right? Because this message that I'm getting isn't really about how to fight a mountain lion, right? I mean, that's that's the that's maybe the text, right? But it's the subtext that matters, right? It's where is this coming from, right? What is the fear, or the you know what is the inner experience for me that is manifesting in this way, right? So I and the way that this plays out just in terms of my interior world is I say, like, I'm gonna stop fighting, right? In my mind, right? I'm gonna stop being like, oh, how can I prevail, right? And the mountain lion, in my like visioning, is going to then kill me, right? Because that's the that's like the thrust here. Okay, so it's like I'm gonna just stop. I'm gonna stop preventing that and just see what happens, right? And then it's like, wow, the experience really opens up then, right? Um, because you're no longer are you fighting the thing that you fear. You're like, all right, let me go with this. And not only let me go with it, let me really experience it, right? Let me allow the thing that I most fear in this moment to occur, and then see, right, what happens then. And the experience just really opened up, right? I mean, I felt like uh, an incredible kind of bond, right, with this creature. I mean, I don't even know, like, on a you know on a fact based level or whatever. I don't know that that was really a mountain lion. I never saw anything, right? But spiritually it was. You know what I'm saying, right? It doesn't matter if it was a real thing or not, right? It's what does that represent to me, right? That's the issue here. So anyway, by stopping, not fighting it and going with it, you get this transformation of energy that happens. Okay, so let's try this out, so that this story is more than just a story, but maybe something that you can actually do. All right, so you adopt your meditative posture again, and tune into your breath, and try to make your breath deep in your belly, slow, and also try to make it smooth. You're really controlling your breath here. Make your breath rhythmic. Tune into your heartbeat. If you can feel it, if you're having trouble feeling it, take your fingertips, and lightly press on your breastbone. You might then feel the heartbeat in your fingertips. And on the exhalation, you squeeze your abdominal muscles, squeezing out the breath and preparing yourself to receive a big inhalation. Now, a lot of times when you're meditating by yourself, there's going to be a different energy, right? You have to generate your own energy, which then carries you through. Okay. So, one of the benefits of being here with me is that we generate this energy together, right? That's why I do this class live. You There's a vibe that happens. I mean, I can feel it right now, that is different from uh, what you get when you're by yourself. So, that's a different experience, right? You guys are listening to me. You have a different energy that's going on than when you're by yourself. So, I'm just going to suggest that you think about something that is difficult for you, right? We don't have to go very far to think of something that bothers us. A lot of times these things are just knocking at our door anyway, right? Whether we want it or not, it's gonna come to us. But um, try to think of something right now that bothers you, annoys you, scares you, whatever it is, right? Now, your breath needs to be strong in order to carry you through this, right? A lot of times, what happens is that we have a strong experience, especially if it's difficult. And what it does is interrupts the breath, makes your breath arrhythmic. It makes you start holding it at different places. You're not breathing in and out the same. You're not breathing fully anymore. Your breath is shallow. It's no longer deep, and so on. So, you want to really maintain the power of your breath, the structure of your breath. That will carry you through any pain and difficulty, right? That's the goal, at least, right? To develop your breath to that extent, so that no matter what is happening internally, you still have that structure, because it gives you the energy that you need to deal with whatever is coming up, right? So, whatever that difficult or unpleasant experience is, right? You're breathing with it rhythmically, slowly, deeply, fully, in a heart centered way, right? You are giving your heart the energy that you need in order to deal with, to assimilate, to understand, to learn from, right? Every experience we have in life is an opportunity for growth and learning and development. Wouldn't it be nice if we could learn and grow and develop from life's good experiences? I truly wish that for you. I wish that for myself. I wish I was wise enough to learn from the good experiences. But my experience is that it is often the difficult ones that really push us, where we really grow quite a bit. So there's a kind of silver lining there. Of course, we always say, "I've grown enough. I don't need any more difficulty. I've had enough difficulty. I'm grown. I'm enlightened. I'm good. Thank you. Right. So, but life has other things in mind for us. So you go more deeply into the experience. You try to really stop fighting it and just trust in the power of your heart to do these with the experience whatever needs to happen for yourself. At some point, take a big breath in, and now just hold your breath for a little while. All right, hold your breath at the top of your inhalation. So when your lungs are full of breath, holding the breath allows you to experience real stillness. Right, the motion of your body breathing is not present when you're holding your breath. By holding your breath when you're full of breath, you experience what it means to hold full energy, right? Breath is energy. So by holding it, you are holding energy. So we sometimes use the holding of the breath in this practice to develop that, right? Develop your capacity to hold energy because this is important, right? This is part of it. All right, so we'll end our session there. I'll have another practice session in a bit, but I want to say a couple of other things to you guys. Um, so, first of all, I hope this is working for you, right? If something happens that you find really puzzling, um, please let me know. Right, send me a message, write me a comment. DM me on Twitter, whatever it is. Right, I'd love to help if I can. Because that's another kind of category of things, right? Which is so, like I've mentioned, two things that'll probably happen to you, right? One, you'll feel energy, you'll feel inspiration, you'll feel, there's all kinds of different ways that you might feel energy. For me, I have like really like crazy hot hands. Like my hands are always hot, they're always sweaty, um, and that happens even more like when I meditate. So I will sit there with my hands on my knees for a while, and then I'll often, you know, I'll be done meditating, whatever, and like my knees will be kind of wet from that area, right? That the energy in the hands. Um, so lots of different ways you might experience energy in your body or inspiration or whatever. I hope that you're getting at least some of that. Um, Difficult experiences, right? Emotionally difficult, incredibly common, right? Meditate for you can't practice it for long before you experience that. Um, the other category is the unexplained, right? I mean, something happens that you just do not know what to make of, right? I mean, um, it might be a very good experience, or I mean, it might be. So, what I mean by not know what to make of it is it just kind of blows your mind, right? I mean, I had this years ago. I was teaching a class, and I had a regular student, and we sit together or whatever in this group, small group, and then she shares this experience of really vast like experience of unity, right? I mean, this is really like what meditation is for, right? To bring you in touch to experience the infinite. And as I'm listening to her talk about this, I'm like, Yes, yeah, all right. This is a really big deal. It's the the first time she had consciously experienced that. So I'm like, fantastic, right? And this is somebody who was coming regularly, coming every week. It's an in-person class, and then I did not see her again after that, right? So powerful experiences can also be very difficult, right? Because like a mind-blowing experience that happens, um, that's great conceptually, like, oh yes, I want to have my mind blown. But then when it happens, you're like, oh my gosh, this is more difficult than I thought, right? It's because I don't know what that was, right? And even though it was powerful, even if it might have been good, um, very powerful and very positive experiences can still be very difficult, right? Um, Kind of brings to mind that quote from Oscar Wilde. It's a little bit of a bleak quote, but the quote is, "There's two tragedies in life, and one is not getting what you want, and the other one is getting it." Right? And I mean, I interpret that to mean like, if when you get what you want or you get what you seek, it changes you, right? Because you're not seeking in the same way as before, and that's change is just always difficult. Um, all right, but the point is, the third category of stuff that happens in meditation is just the absolutely unexplained, and that's where the philosophy kind of helps, right? The teachings, this aspect of it, right? That it's not meant to be dogmatic. It's meant to be like, well, that can be really useful when you have an experience that does not fit into any box that you have, right? You have no conceptual frame for it, right? And that's why I say that's difficult, right? Because something happens to you that you just have no understanding of. Um, it's hard, right? Or it can be. So if you that's why I was saying, look, I'm here for you if that happens, and if I can be helpful, I would be very happy to. Um, Now, I hope that I'm not making meditation sound too difficult either. I mean, there should be some good benefits here for you, right? Um, hopefully doing this kind of breathing. I hope that you feel energized, right? I hope that it helps you mentally. I hope that helps you physically. Um, this is whenever I practice this, right? I feel fantastic. Even if there's difficult things, it's like, well, that's sort of tempered by that I feel quite good physically, right? So it shouldn't be something that is that feels like a negative physically, right? It should feel positive there. Um, if it does feel negative, you probably are not doing the steps in the way that I've indicated, right? Which is, that happens. That happens with learning anything, right? You might not have learned it really that well, because it's a journey. Um, all right, so yeah, I wanted to get to in this discussion to talk about more about the experience of the infinite, and I want to relate this to something that I haven't talked too much about so far, which is God, and what is the relationship between like meditation and prayer, right? How do you reconcile these different things? Whether maybe you believe in God, maybe you don't. Um, how does that play a role in meditation or this style of meditation? Um, and obviously that's more of a philosophical point, right? So um, Sufism has a certain concept of God. It's a personal kind of concept, right? So like Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all have this, right? They have a personal conception of God. Now, in all these religions, you'd also say, well, God is more than just the personal. But God has when I say personal, it means God has like qualities that we recognize kind of as human, right? Like, the Old Testament, God gets angry, right? God smites people and cities, and like God has emotions. Okay, right? Like, that's interesting. In other religions, the divine is not depicted in that manner, right? It's more the impersonal aspects are focused on, right? Like in Buddhism, for example, Buddhism is very far on the other end, right? Um, the concept of the one reality, which is sometimes referred to as the void or emptiness, right? Is a very, very much part of the Buddhist tradition, but they do not view it as a person with personal characteristics, right? With a personality. So that's a different view. Um, but I would suggest that wherever your beliefs fall on this, I would suggest maybe adopting the position that it's kind of all the same thing, right? Like, what do we mean by God? We mean the infinite, you know? We mean the perfect. We mean the unlimited. Okay. So, does the infinite, perfect, unlimited beingness, right? The spirit that holds all other spirits within it, that is all that exists, right? Does that have a personal nature or an impersonal nature? Look, I would say it's both, but it doesn't matter that much, like, because all this stuff is way beyond the capacity of our minds to hold, and it's like anything that's beyond the capacity of your mind to hold, then don't trouble yourself with it all that much, right? If you do a lot of meditation and have this experience of the infinite, right, it's going to it's both a universal experience that, like, many, many, many people have had and talked about and written about. It's beautiful, right? Like, you can pick it up. You've had that feeling, had that experience. You can pick it up when somebody else is talking about it, like it's crystal clear. Just like if you ever been in love, then you hear somebody who's in love talking about it. You're like, ah, right, yes, I get that, I feel that. Beautiful, right? um, if you haven't, then it can still be nice, it's still something, right? But it's not going to have that same resonance to you, right? As, yes, that reminds me, right, of my own experience. Okay, so, um, how does this all play a role, right? Remember, meditation as an activity, it's like we have these steps, right? Consciousness has stages. Okay, so you go from stage zero, your mind is distracted, you think about different things and whatever, right? To focus, concentration, okay, the building block. You focus your mind. So, heart rhythm meditation, you're focusing your mind on in a particular way and on a particular object of focus, right? The object of focus is your heart chakra, and your breath, right? To create the structure that I mentioned, right? A deep, slow, rhythmic, heart centered, full, all that. Okay, so that's important. We will add more things to that as you get good at the practice. Then we add a focus on a particular kind of energy or particular kind of phrase or mantra, or there's different ways of tuning it up. Okay, so that's concentration, right? That stage. Then we move into contemplation, and this means the focus that you had maintained is like now sweeping you along, right? You had, like you dug the trench, and now the water is flowing through it, right? and and you get swept along with it. And that's fantastic, right? It goes for, that when you're in this state, because you no longer feel like you're sweating and, oh, let me try to bring my mind back to this, whatever. No, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel hard. It feels easy. Okay. So concentration feels hard. Contemplation, flow, right? Once you're in the flow, it feels easy. but you're not distracted, right? That's the key. Okay. So when you're just in a distracted, fragmentary type of thing, you're not concentrating. That's also easy, right? It's just that you're not in the flow, right? I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, right? Yeah, hopefully you guys are following me on this. Okay. So, concentration, focusing your mind, contemplation or flow state. But, there's more, right? We want to get to the unlimited, right? So you do that by opening yourself to the infinite, the perfect, right? And this is harder because there's no way to make yourself do it, right? Um, can you make yourself concentrate? Yes, of course you can, right? And I hope you all have the ability to do that, right? If not, I would suggest learning it as quickly as you can, right? Um, concentration is something that you should be able to turn on and turn off, right? Um, so, um, can you enter the flow state at will? Well, that's a little bit harder, actually, right? A little bit harder, but when you get good at something, it should be pretty natural for you to enter this state of flow, right? It should happen pretty reliably. Okay, experiencing infinite, you can never make yourself do that. I mean, you have to allow it to happen, right? It's not an active thing. It's a passive thing. It's a thing that um, that's our nature, right? Our nature is, on some level, we are unlimited, right? That is our true nature. Um, but most of the time, and all our experience of life and whatever is not the experience of the unlimited. It's the experience of the limited, right? Um, like, I want to do something, I can't. I'm blocked. I don't have the time. I don't have the money, right? I mean, that's all limitation. Most of what we know about ourselves is that limitation. So to open yourself to feel the unlimited experience, your own perfection or the perfection of the universe, right? Or the infinite grace of God. I mean, whatever terms you want to use for that. Um, so we want to use the structure that we've developed to help us with that. Okay. So this is where I'm going to suggest moving away from like counting the rhythm of the breath, right? So counting is important insofar as we make the breath rhythmic and heart centered, right? So you're feeling the beating of your heart, synchronizing your breath with that, right? Um, it makes your breath slow, it makes your breath rhythmic, it makes your breath heart centered, all of that. But we want to draw upon the emotional and spiritual connection. That is, however it is that you conceive of God, infinity, the universe, whatever it is. I don't know what, each of us has a different conception, a different, Hazrat Khan calls it the God ideal, right? We each have a different version of that. So, you know, maybe it's like maybe you were raised with Christianity and in the West and whatever, and so God is, on some subconscious level, like a white guy with a white beard. I know, looks a bit like me, right? But so maybe that's the picture that pops in your head. I don't know, right? I mean, that's the way that certainly, like in Christian societies, right? We've often been, kind of taught to think about God, right, as an actual person, right, or as Jesus, right. So if that is your conception, maybe you go with that, right. You choose a word to place on your heartbeat, okay, that represents the divine, that represents the infinite, that represents what is perfection. Okay, it doesn't need to be a personal conception of God at all. It could be a word like forest or ocean, right? It could be something that connects you to the grandeur of nature, right? But you want something that has emotional resonance, right? So because I've been, doing this for a long time and grew up with Sufism and so on, for myself personally, I feel comfortable using the Islamic term for God, which is Allah. Allah is just, I think it's a beautiful sounding word to me. It has a lot of emotional connection to me. The word literally means the all, right? So that's a wonderful kind of conception, I think. Maybe that term, maybe that word doesn't have that kind of resonance for you, so you use something else, right? Something that does. Maybe you have a very deep connection with Jesus, right? So you use the word Jesus, or maybe you have a connection with another tradition. That's fine too, um, right? So let's try this out, and we'll do our last meditation session for the evening. Um, so get in your good upright posture, tune into your breath, make your breath deep, rhythmic, smooth, slow, heart centered, and full. Tune into your heartbeat. Maybe place a hand on your chest to help you feel it, to bring the energy there. You can use your fingertips as well. Now, whatever word you have chosen that represents to you the unlimited, the perfect, the eternal, the divine, whatever it is, you take that word and you place it on your heartbeat. Now, you may notice that your mind very easily creates groups. Okay, so a rhythm of 8 in and 8 out is like two groups of four, right? So the 4 count rhythm is a very ancient and very popular rhythm, right? We see the 4 part rhythm in a lot of different kinds of music. Because it's easy for us to do even if we don't count it, right? It's like bop 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 bop, right? We don't need to go 1 2 3 4. I mean, we could if we wanted to, but we just go bop 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 bop, right? So whatever your word is, you cluster it in that manner, right? So for me, right, if I'm using the word Allah, right, it's going Allah, 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 right? And I know that's four. So I just do that 2 times to get 8 beats in, right? And then I do that 2 times to get 8 beats out. Okay. Now, when you get good at this, it goes into your unconscious mind, and you find yourself doing it much more easily. But when you're trying to create the habit, it's going to take all of your focus, all of your concentration. Now try to reach further with your breath, right? As you breathe all the way out and squeeze your abdominal muscles, you are building and building the energy of your exhalation. You're building that energy of your breath. You're building the power of your breath. And you use that to just reach deeply into yourself, into your heart, into this experience. And then as you breathe in, the energy changes. You receive the energy of the breath. Rather than sending, you shift to receiving. And again, you use the breath to reach further, right? Go deeply into the experience of your heart saying this sacred word, right? It's not sacred because I'm saying it's sacred, right? It's sacred because you are saying that. You have chosen something that is sacred to you, right? And by placing it on your heart, you are worshiping. You are seeking. Try to make the experience all that there is for you, right? It goes so deeply into it that there's nothing else but that. All right, we'll end our session there. I hope that you got something from this meditation. I hope that you're able to feel the vibe, to and to see that this is like a something that maybe bears some exploration. Um, all right, so we're just about out of time here for this evening. Thank you so much for joining me, and we're here every week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Have a good night.